Japan's march towards militarism started soon after the overthrow of the Tokugawa shogunate and the beginning of the Meiji Restoration in 1868. The failure of the party government became apparent by the late 1920s. This failure of the parties to provide national leadership gave the militarists their chance to rise to power. The failure was partly due to the country's own weaknesses, including internal disunity, corruption, no mass support, and economic failures.
The Meiji Constitution of 1889 gave independence to the armed services. It stated that the services had the right of direct access to the emperor, and thus bypassing the government should become necessary to do so. The Meiji Constitution allowed for the rise of Hideki Tojo.
Hideki Tojo, the Japanese general in the Imperial Army and the 40th Prime Minister of Japan during much of World War II, played a major role in Japanese lives from the 18th of October 1941 to the 22nd of July 1944. Some historians believe that Tojo was responsible for the attack on Pearl Harbor, which led to America entering World War II. When the war ended, Tojo was sentenced to death for war crimes by the International Military Tribunal for the Far East and was hanged on the 23rd December 1948.
The clip you are about to see is from a film that was made by the U.S. War Department. The film details the background of the Imperial Japanese Army and Navy and attempts to assess the character and makeup of its foot soldiers and leadership during Japan's militaristic buildup.
The code of the samurai is the code of Japan's modern army. Its officers and men have modeled themselves after Japan's feudal warriors. Their traditions glorify frugal living, devotion to duty, and a loyalty to a divine emperor that gives in death its last full measure of allegiance. In the training of personnel for the Japanese officer corps, kendo or kenjutsu, an ancient style of fencing, is preferred to the Western-type sports ordinarily used in civilian schools for physical conditioning. Japanese officers who have charged enemy machine guns while brandishing their sabers believe that fencing is invaluable training for the modern battlefield. Note that these young men developing suppleness of wrist through a ritual sword dance wear the hakama, or divided skirt, traditional garb of the nation. The Japanese concentrate on fencing not for the exercise alone, but for the accuracy, alertness, decision, and physical stamina deemed desirable in an officer. Compulsory in Japanese schools, fencing is also required in police training and is carried on with religious punctiliousness by soldiers in barracks and camps. The samurai saber itself, wielded with both hands, is a famous weapon of remarkably keen and tough steel. The guard is almost half as long as the blade. Officers will pay large sums of money to get a fine saber and have been known to throw their entire families into debt in order to pay for these expensive swords. Judo or jujitsu is demonstrated in this Japanese melodrama, not unlike an American Western in which the hero defeats the villains one by one. Judo is considered not only a sport, but a system of mental training, ethics, and social behavior. It's featured in Budo, the Japanese collective term for martial arts. If kendo reveals the mentality of the Japanese military, judo, which means the way of the meek or the gentle, may be said to betray the basic psychology characteristic of Japanese diplomacy. Thousands of judo students have flocked to the Kodokan School in Tokyo, national headquarters for this military sport. The popular but tricky and deceptive judo has a definite influence on the Japanese character. Japanese girls go through the maneuvers of sojutsu, the art of handling a spear, prescribed for girl students. This demonstration is indicative of the military regimentation imposed on the nation as a whole. But for Japan's masters, women have only one militarily useful function: to produce sons for the Army and Navy. Another group of Japanese schoolgirls are put through bayonet drill and rifle practice under the eye of an Army officer. Although it is doubtful whether these maidens will ever see combat, they undergo part of the same stern training their young brothers receive in preparation for induction into Japan's conscript army. The exercises conducted by these girls reflect the training which begins for the Japanese boy at the age of 6. At 12, he is in uniform and may even carry a light rifle and participate in annual maneuvers involving light field guns and hand grenades. By the time he's ready for induction at the age of 19, the young Japanese has years of rigorous military training behind him.
Japanese militarism, the ideology in the Empire of Japan that militarism should take over the political and social life of the nation, and that the strength of the military is equal to the strength of the nation. The military played a strong role in Japanese society from the Meiji Restoration. Almost all the leaders in the Japanese society during the Meiji period were ex-samurais or offsprings of samurais who all shared a set of values and outlooks.
Early Meiji government observed Japan as threatened by Western imperialism. It was one of the prime inspirations for the Fukuoka Kyohei policy, set to try and strengthen Japan's economic and industrial foundations, allowing a strong military that could be built to defend Japan against any outside powers.
The rise of militarism also led Japan to its declaration of war onto many islands in the Pacific, and especially the United States. There were costly battles on Guadalcanal, Saipan, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, and many others. Ultimately, America developed 2 fission bombs and dropped them on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ending World War II, but beginning an era of nuclear warfare.